What if the problem isn't you? What if you're in the wrong room? My suspicion? You're not broken and you don't need to be fixed. You've outgrown where you are. Let's get more space and freedom to redesign the life you deserve. Welcome to the Reinvention Room. I'm Allison Hare, podcast launch strategist for ambitious leaders, and we are rethinking everything we've been taught. Part pop culture, part real talk, and all smarter ways to live life on your own terms. Are you in the midst of a big reinvention yourself? Maybe you're experiencing burnout or you just need a damn vacation. Lindsey Epperly, the founder of Jet Set World Travel, joins us fresh off of her announcement stepping down as CEO. Imagine the identity gymnastics your brain does when stepping out of a role that you built your whole life around. Lindsey and I talk about identity shifts, the raw reality of entrepreneur burnout, and what's possible when you step away from your dream. She also shares insider, this is so fun, travel trends, practical tips to truly recharge on vacation, and what it really means to lean into the pause when everything feels urgent. Plus, we hit a lightning round that's as fun as it is insightful. I love doing the lightning rounds. Lindsey has scaled from a one-person operation into a team of over 80 dedicated members. She was recently recognized on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies and has been named to the Forbes Next 1000 list. Lindsey is dedicated to fighting burnout and teaching others how to turn obstacles into opportunities on her podcast, Who Made You the Boss? Isn't that a great title? Don't we all struggle with that sometime? And a little bit of a quick heads up. My audio in this kind of sucks. I tried to fix it as best I can, so I'm going to thank you in advance for a little extra grace while you listen, but this conversation was too good not to air, so let's jump in. Lindsey, welcome.
Thank you, Allison. I'm excited to be on.
This is like an insane week for you. So the week that we're recording it is the week of like middle October, and you just made a huge announcement. What is happening?
Yeah, I know the timing of this couldn't be better just for you and I to have connected and finally meeting in person. And I wanted to tell you so much when I saw you a couple weeks ago what was about to come. But last week I announced to my team, this week I announced publicly that I am transitioning out of my role as CEO of the business that I founded that is now 10 years old. And my husband and business partner, Jeremy, is transitioning into the CEO role. So I am embracing a new journey, a new part of my career experience, and I'm stepping into a chairwoman role for Jet Set World Travel.
Wow. Can we back all the way up, because your background is so impressive of what you have done. And honestly, your age, you are so youthful. The amount that you've accomplished at such a young age is really remarkable. Would you mind, catching us up a little bit to your background?
Thank you. I so appreciate that. Well, I mean, it helped that I started at 19. I wandered into a travel agency for a brochure and I accidentally walked out with a job. So while I was still in college, I was getting into the travel industry. I was working as a travel advisor. I was kind of looking out around me and seeing areas that could be improved. I've always been very entrepreneurial. Came from an entrepreneurial family. So I just kind of knew I wanted to own a business and start a business. And the travel industry quickly became the vehicle for that. And so I spent about 5 years as an independent contractor, like building my own book of business. And then I decided I'm going to launch my actual travel agency. And that was when I launched what was then called Epperly Travel, now known as Jet Set World Travel. And we can fast forward as much as we want, fill in the gaps in between everything. But we essentially had acquired another company during the pandemic. And that's what allowed us to rebrand to who we are today.
So this is not that long ago that you acquired this company, since we are in 2024. What prompted this decision to step out of the CEO role?
So I've been asked that question now a number of times, like, how did you know it was time and there was no one silver bullet moment. For me, it was kind of a series of events that led up to this. And most of those were life circumstances that just kind of jolted me to my core, right? So the passing of a dear friend and then navigating the pandemic as the leader of a travel agency prior to that acquisition even. So often I was realizing, one, my own purpose and what I wanted to be doing on this earth, and two, what the company needed of me. And so very often those things were intersecting, right? And so I took the idea, especially during the pandemic, of I've got to be a leader of this company. I have to learn what it means to be a great CEO. We now are navigating the industry's greatest crisis. Meanwhile, I'm 5 months pregnant with my first child. My husband is my soon-to-be business partner. He's already working with me, but we have not yet achieved business partnership. He was an assistant. And so we're navigating this like married life. What are we going to do with the next phase of this journey with a child in the picture? We had to walk away from our home in order to save the business. So there's just this constant like tumult in how I am leading as a CEO, right? And how I'm learning to take those steps. And it was what the business needed of me at the time. I very much felt like I am the right person for this. This is my baby before my own baby came along, and leaned into that. But to answer this original question, how did I know it was time? Is through those series of events, and I had a bit of a medical journey in the middle of all of that too. It was like a slow dance in learning that I am not my business and my business is not me. And that if my ego requires that I maintain full control as CEO always, then I am going to stunt this business. And so it was a lot of self-work and understanding I'm a starter. I love being a creative. I love the beginnings of things. I've now been at this for 10 years and I never really dreamed of being a CEO. I always dreamed of starting. I always dreamed of creating. I did those things and then it required the CEO position. But if I really want this company to outlast me, I'm going to have to bring in someone that wants to be a CEO, that is longing for that, right? I stretched myself kind of as far as I felt like I could go in that particular position and realized I'm actually replaceable in this position. And that's a beautiful place to find yourself as a founder, because I think a lot of times you're so enmeshed, you don't realize that you could actually step aside at the right point and the business could thrive even more without you.
I think that kind of begs the question over how do you take control when you feel like you have built this machine that is almost controlling you? And first of all, my head is exploding in about 50 different directions, that passing this on to your husband, that it is still your baby, right? You still are the chairwoman, so you will have say in what happens. Where I think I am so interested to dig into is one of the things that I noticed about you and the kind of work that you do. You have a podcast, you own a travel agency, but it is not about travel. I mean, certainly it embeds travel, but it really is on personal and professional development and really focusing on identity, focusing on imposter syndrome. Who made you the boss? You know, you're continuously challenging yourself over what is next. And I wonder the identity piece. Like, I couldn't imagine when I left my corporate career, I would walk around like a zombie going, I need to be doing something. I need to be doing something. And it took so long to unwind from that. And there's so much embedded from the identity perspective. What does that look like for you where you sit today?
Oh, God, this is so layered. I love this question. First, thank you for noticing that the travel agency is not specifically about travel. Yes, it is a travel agency, but I built it where we say at its core, we are not teaching people to become travel advisors. We are teaching entrepreneurs how to sell travel, right? So it's all about like, we are pouring into entrepreneurs. It just so happens that travel is the vehicle. And so you're right. I'm all about personal and professional development. That is a passion of mine. The identity piece though, where you took this question, is so complex because as a founder, you believe that, you don't end and the business begins, like you are just one. And so a large part of my journey, especially over the past 4 years after navigating the pandemic, after becoming a mom, after all the things, after the acquisition and the rebranding, so many of those steps were intentional so that I would kind of decouple myself from my creation. Because I think at the very core of it, an entrepreneur is a creator. And so what we've put into the world is like art. Like it feels so precious and fragile and so part of ourselves that if we cling to it in that way, we suffocate it. It's like being a mom, right? Like you want to see your child grow, but also you want to hold on to every single little thing. And so it's like managing that tension has been a large part of me in separating my identity. That's why we even rebranded from Epperly Travel. That's my maiden name. That's what I'm known as professionally. But even in the rebranding process, our message to our team and our clients was we're going from me to we, because this is not all about the Lindsey Epperly show. We need it to not simply be an extension of myself, because I want this business to outlast who I am and what I'm doing.
And what I feel is so interesting is that most of the people that listen to this show are typically interested or going through or considering a massive reinvention or some type of shift, some type of change. So from the identity perspective of like the decoupling part of what that looks like, there are so many people that I talk to that hang on so long really because of the ego of it. Well, I mean, there's part ego, but then there's part like, if I take out this Jenga piece, everything is going to fall to the ground. Do you have those moments?
Yes. Gosh, yes.
And what have you learned about it? You are looking at this from a macro perspective, but you're also a person with an identity and ego, all of that.
I'll tell you, the best thing that ever happened to me was that I had a season where the business failed traumatically. All right. Because we are running a travel agency during a world pandemic, and that is not the time to be in the travel business. And so we are 18 months in the red. Every single day, Jeremy, my husband, and I are opening up a spreadsheet on our computer that we've titled Project Slim Fast. And we're going, all right, how much longer can this business survive? How much longer can it survive if we walk away from our home? How much longer can it survive if we apply for this government assistance? How much longer can it survive now that this border is reopening, but this one's closing? Like, it was a constant evaluation of the viability of the business that I had spent my entire 20s creating. And so the question of like, who am I in all of this? And how do it became that this thing felt like a failure. And so I then started feeling like a failure. And I just waded through that like ugly. I might as well feel, I felt like that was when I felt like the greatest imposter, right? I was like walking around with failure written on my forehead in Sharpie. I just thought everyone can see, everyone can tell. I just feel like such a failure. And so it was at that type of rock bottom that I began to realize, no. Wait, this business is going through a season. It's going to bounce back. And also it is not me. The business, and whether it succeeds or fail does not mean whether I am a success or failure. So I had to do a lot of identity work during that really grave period.
What did that look like? Who helped you through that? Did you do like retreats? Like therapists?
No, we couldn't go anywhere. I was a mom. I just pushed a stroller. I just pushed a stroller with my thoughts.
Yeah.
No, I have a fabulous therapist, but and my husband really is my best friend and through all of this. So like I was able to talk to him a lot, and he would give me great perspective. And some of this too, I actually had a crazy medical journey through all of this, Allison, where when my daughter was about 18 months old. So right after we had acquired Jet Set, right as things look like they are beginning to normalize again, as I'm being called to step up as a leader more than I ever have before, right? To unite these two companies, to lead us forward as the pandemic kind of starts to wane. I am sitting at my kitchen table talking to my husband, and I fall out of my chair and into a seizure. And
oh my goodness.
It was a 6-month journey of being misdiagnosed, of finding scarring on my brain, of how do I show up as a leader when I don't even know if I can walk down the stairs with my child? I legally cannot drive anymore. Okay. So this period of just so unknown. And so this was after I'd started doing a lot of the decoupling work from the business, right? We had started to actually go down that path that I just began really understanding who I am as a human, and how do I hold on to hope in spite of the outcome. We might not recover from this. I might be diagnosed with this lifelong disease that they originally thought that I had. Miraculously, a few months later, I received a second opinion at Mayo Clinic, and I got clear scans. They did not see scarring on my brain that they had seen a few months before. They said, we think this was a fluke. You're good to go. But it was during that time that I was really able to say, okay, I've been placed on this earth for a reason. I know that I am able to execute a lot of my mission through what I'm building at Jet Set. But I also know I have a larger calling beyond that. And so how do I make sure I set Jet Set up for success, as well as pursue what I believe my purpose is? So it all started becoming, decisions after that. I think they were just like micro decisions around that identity and around what I believe my purpose is.
And I think it kind of begs the question around the fabric of what you're built around, which is when your purpose outweighs your fear, which kind of goes into who made you the boss. And so I think we all struggle with the fear of, what if it doesn't work? What if I'm not up for the task? What if I make a wrong step? How did that scale kind of weigh out for you, where you were able to kind of see more of the macro and also know that your purpose, like I always describe it, because I talk about this a lot in my day-to-day work and calls and people that I work with and clients of, people feel like they have something that's been placed on their heart and it will not let go. And they don't know how to translate what that looks like into possibility. Like you talk about turning problems into possibilities.
Yeah.
What did that look like for you?
So there's this element of it. I have a very strong faith background. And so for me, especially recently, like this past week, I very much, as I was afraid to get up, right? I was afraid to get up in front of my team and say the words, I have decided that the dream has outpaced the dreamer. I have decided that it is my time to step back and let someone else run this company. I was so afraid to say those words because what's the fallout going to be? And just a few minutes before I went on that stage, I just locked myself in a bathroom and I started praying and I started just really trying to connect to God and who I believe God is. And so this might look different for every human, but I asked the question of what would you have me know today? What would this be today? And I received such a clear message of, well done. Well done. You have done what you were supposed to here. And so no matter what other people think, as long as you have been taking the steps toward what you know in your heart is your purpose, I think that's how I've been able to combat that, because otherwise you're right. The fear will paralyze you. And what's unfortunate too, I think, Allison, is when we get in those places, we're then letting other people's version of success rule what we do next. We're then letting other people's expectation of us rule what we do next. And so at what point do we get to live our own lives? So I've really actually Untamed helped me with a ton of that. So if you haven't read Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed, that was like a game changer for me in realizing, well, when am I going to show up for what I need and what I want? And when I do that, I'm setting a better example as a mother, a better example as a leader, a better example as a wife and a friend. So I think the best work we can do is to pursue our own purpose.
Hi, it's Allison. Thanks for listening. Do you have a podcast idea that just won't shut up? It's probably trying to tell you something. You know that your voice can boost your influence, your impact, and yes, your income too. So don't push it off anymore. You need to let your people find you. Book a free clarity call with me at AllisonHair.com/free call. You'll walk away with clarity, a custom game plan, and if it makes sense, we'll talk about bringing it to life together. If not, you'll still have a 3D roadmap you can run with. You will be so glad you did.
Yes. So when I met you, Lindsey, we first talked, I think it was in the summer, and you were going off for a 2-month sabbatical, which I had to take a minute and think, wow, what does a 2-month sabbatical in Portugal look like? And I think I learned that was new for you too. What was that like?
Oh, it was so cool. It was so special.
Emotionally too.
Yes, all the things. Well, the only thing close to that I'd ever experienced was maternity. When you actually give yourself permission to say, boundaries are up, this is really important time. And I did this sabbatical knowing that I was planning on stepping out of the CEO role. And I really wanted to use this as a testing period. And so I said, I called it sabbatical-ish because I was too afraid to even call it sabbatical. And I said, the ish part is that I'm here to advise if you need me. We were going to practice just like it was if I were to, and now Jeremy was a little less plugged in than he is now in the day-to-day, but it was just let's try this out for a couple months.
Yeah.
Emotionally, I had never had that kind of creative time opened up, because when you're on a maternity, your focus is on the baby and on your wellness and on moving forward from there. But in this case, my focus was on, I know my purpose and my calling next are creating. I have created this podcast. I'm doing a lot of writing. And so I just threw myself into make no plans, create no meetings, only open up space for that creative process. And that was really freeing.
That sounds like freaking heaven.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's like my dream, is just to have time to create. You talk a lot in your work about burnout
Mhm.
and on your podcast about burnout. What is your message about burnout?
It's a really good question because I have definitely experienced it over the course of the 10 years of running this business, the 15 years of being in the travel industry, being a professional. I have found personally that every time I experience burnout, it is like my body's way of saying it is time to level up, it is time to evolve, it is time to move forward. And
Mm,
I I've always applied that in ways of scaling. And so for me, that's how I've been able to build the business is that, all right, I'm up against this season of burnout as a travel advisor. I'm starting to feel like there's something just brushing up against like what my purpose is and what I'm here for. And so now I'm going to train other travel advisors. So I don't have to be the main person in that role. And so that's how I scaled the very first iteration of what would become Jet Set. And then that started feeling that way again with mentorship. And I'm beginning to be burnout as a mentor. So what would it look like to train someone to be a mentor? And then I could scale into the CEO role. And so it's just like all of those were steps that were actually a response to burnout. And I've really had to study this too, because I've thought, was I just running? Was I just running for burnout? Am I just like trying to stay one step ahead of it? But I think
huh.
it was a matter of like learning to delegate, because I would then evolve really beautifully into that new role. And I would say for myself, most roles for me last like 2 to 5 years. And so it was good to understand how long am I going to be? Again, I'm a creative. I like being fresh in something. And so how long is this going to be really, really good for me? And how much do I need to keep my eye on what is the next evolution and who's going to replace me here? Because we're a lot more replaceable than we give ourselves credit for. And I think that that's a really good thing. I think our ego likes to think like no one's ever going to do it as good as me. And
Yeah.
I've just started to believe like, no, actually, probably someone could do it better. You just have to surround yourself with those people.
There's something that I think you said on an episode with Tyler Merritt on your
Yeah.
podcast. He is delightful. And by the way, you both together are so fun.
Thanks.
I
We
really,
had
really
such good friend
enjoyed.
chemistry.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. But one of the things that he said that I feel is echoed in what you just said is choose yourself over waiting to be chosen. And I think, I know I've been guilty of this where I literally wish somebody would pluck me out of obscurity and just take me out of the grind
Yeah.
and then like put me on the platform that I have dreamed so much for. And so I wonder what that means to you around like choosing yourself versus waiting to be chosen, because that really stuck out to me. And
Mm.
that is what you're saying too, that again, what I'm hearing again and again and again is you are not stuck, that it is almost like the push for you to evolve.
Yeah.
And how do you do that?
I think a lot of this, and not to just label it as an entrepreneur versus not, but I think a lot of this is because I've got like just entrepreneurship in my bones. And so I would say to
Yeah.
any other listeners, maybe that's a way to reframe. Maybe if you don't think you are entrepreneurial, but you're in a position where you think like, gosh, I really need to evolve. I really need to move forward. If you could start looking at this as a venture for yourself, as saying, well, what the world I need or the world I'm craving does not currently exist around me. So how do I create that world? And that to me is the not waiting to be chosen. It's I'm simply going to build it. So if it doesn't exist, what's stopping you from building it? Whether that's just a personal decision of like, okay, I need to then start delegating this so that I can have more free time so that I can pursue that passion or spend more time with my kids. Or that's literally the birth of a business. Like I think that we have various iterations of what entrepreneurship is. And that is my answer to the not waiting to be chosen. It's simply to build it myself.
It is singing to me. One of the other things that Jet Set World Travel, you guys have a mantra that you say every day, which is create fun and celebrate constantly. Can we just give a minute to that? Because that is freaking awesome.
Thank you. It is. So I love that you picked up on that one. It's one of our core values, in which the other two are that we are gracious, because I believe when we put gratitude into the world and toward each other, we can create a more meaningful world. And then we believe in the value we add. And so those three core values, I like squeezed out of what I had created as the business 10 years ago. And especially the we believe in the value we add part is so meaningful because I think we tend to attract a lot of women that work for us as well. And I think that especially as women, we like tend to discredit ourselves. And so I really wanted to infuse into the core values of this company no, you are here for a reason. We believe in your value. You believe in your value. And honestly, Allison, that's like my bigger picture dream and perspective beyond just jet set. It's helping other people believe in that value and using creativity and using fun and celebration and using gratitude, all as kind of vehicles to get to that point.
Yeah. Don't you feel like we under celebrate in this life?
I do. And you know what's funny is one of the reasons I did the create fun and celebrate constantly in particular is because we get to plan people's vacations for a living, which is so fun. But sometimes you would look behind the scenes and think that we were doing like brain surgery. You know, we take it so seriously. It becomes so personal. It's so big. It's so heavy that I needed to remind everyone, like, we need to be celebrating. People are going on trips. This is fun. This is great stuff. We're getting to like steward these amazing dreams into reality. So yes, I do. I think we just don't celebrate enough as humans. I think sometimes we just take ourselves and our work so seriously. And there's nothing wrong with some doses of that, but like you got to leave some space for play too.
I think you'd have a very unique perspective over your clients. If you could give us a glimpse of what do you notice that people want that would make us surprised, you know, because what you guys do is you create an experience. It's not just putting them in a great hotel, but what I know about you and the way that your business operates is you are asking them, what do they want? What do they don't want? What do they like? You know, and really making sure those tiny, tiny details are really paid attention to. If you're looking at like, I need a break, like people are looking to get a break from work or whatever it is, what do you notice that it is what they need that maybe we don't know about that could be helpful for us to maybe identify in ourselves that it's time to go?
I love that question. And I'll disclaimer this with I have not been an active travel advisor for about 5 years. So I haven't worked on the front line in a while, but I can tell you what I can recall because it is such a human experience and emotion. Is that you would think that this is simply talking to someone and finding out, like, do you like a large hotel or a small hotel? Do you like the beach or the mountains? You'd think it was just a checklist of questions. But what our team is doing is we're reading in between the lines on the answers, and we're picking up on the dynamics. Who's traveling? Does partner A want something different than partner B? Is the child old enough to be involved in some of this decision? Like we're really trying to get some of the psychology. And I joke that travel advising is like 90% therapy because it becomes a very, when done well, a very intimate conversation. Like we're really being let into an individual's life. And to your point, maybe they're traveling because they're burned out. Maybe they're traveling because they haven't been on a vacation in 5 years. Maybe they're celebrating something that's really meaningful to them. But oftentimes they don't lead with that. And so a lot of our job is to like converse and like have a really meaningful, real conversation. This is why I think like as much as we embrace technology and AI and all of that, it will never replace the human element because it's all about getting to know the person as a human. So what do people want that we don't even know? Geez, I mean, it's like half the time people come to you with this idea in the back of their head and they think they know where to execute that. But because they don't know the world like we know the world, there will be a number of times where they come and they're like, okay, we're dreaming of staying in an overwater bungalow in, you know, Australia. And we're like, okay, those don't exist there, but they do exist here, you know, and like, so we'll like change course with like to create the dream. But I always say like, what it boils down to is people have this dream in the back of their head and it's this really special gift of their memories that they're asking us to steward. Like, it's not all about the tangible experience. This is my free leisure time. I cannot get it back. How do I make sure I don't mess it up for me and my family? And that's what they're bringing to us. So like that's the psychology is we've got to figure out how do we make those memories, even when we can't control the strikes and the hurricanes and the airlines and all the things, how do we make sure that they get what they're needing out of this?
Yeah. How do you help them recharge? And I guess that is my question. I've done keynotes on how to actually recharge on vacation. And so I wonder from your perspective, what are maybe some touches that really help people create the memories or be able to, you know, because the challenge is when you get back, a lot of times you come back crashing into the same life you left. And so you want to make sure those vacations and the memories that you create and the benefits are lasting. Are there any things that you go out of your way or that your company goes out of the way to create?
Well, I can really speak to the point of recharging, and if that is your purpose for vacation, right? There are several different reasons. A lot of times if you're going for celebration, like we can really quickly tune into, okay, this is their 50th wedding anniversary. Well, what song did they have playing on the night that they got married? Let's make sure the band plays that at dinner, right? Like we can do all these
Oh,
special touches, and that's really
yeah,
if the reason is celebration, it's core value. We got that. If the reason is recharging, Allison, it's all about reframing what you consider is a vacation. So the American traveler is so oftentimes obsessed with seeing it all, doing it all. And so they actually take these quote unquote vacations, especially if they're going to Europe, and they're doing like a different city every day. And they're like burning the candle at both ends. They want to see it all. They want to do it all. They want to post it all on Instagram. Like it's all
right.
about the amount that they are experiencing and not the quality of how they're experiencing it. So if the point of a getaway is to recharge, I really think it's taking the maximum amount of time you can take because I want to say this is even like psychological that it takes us, 48 to 72 hours to actually retrain our brains to not be in work mode and business mode and life mode and parent
Totally.
mode. So if you're only going somewhere for 3 days and the point is to recharge, yes, maybe you're getting a mini break. But if you're really trying to use travel as a reset, if you can get 10 to 14 days. And I know that's a big ask because people are like, no way, I could never imagine leaving work. Well, probably you have the vacation stored up, you're just not using it. So if you could get that kind of length of time and you could focus on going somewhere where you can simply just exhale, breathe out, take a few days to actually mentally unwind so that you can get in that mode of recharging. And I love doing this. My husband and I used to do this a lot better before kids, but we would come up with the best business ideas and the best next steps simply
Mm,
because we were able to step back and
you
not be
had
so
time and
involved in the
space.
day to day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you had time and space.
Yes. And so I think that applies to our lives too, that we are able to, whether it's a business thing or a personal thing, you really have to be intentional if you're using a trip to recharge.
This is so good. What I would love to do, first of all, before we get to what are you going to do next, can we do a fun lightning round?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. What are the fun travel trends that are happening right now?
Okay, so travel trend wise, we always try to look at destinations that are emerging because otherwise you're going to be just one of thousands of tourists on the Amalfi Coast every single year and you can barely
Yeah.
move and it might as well be Disney World. So I can name you a couple of destinations that I think are ones to watch that if you go to now, your friends probably haven't been to them. You're going to be able to brag about being the first ones there. And there's still actually really incredible gems to be discovered in these areas. Slovenia is definitely a hotspot for Europe for us. It is like the next Italy. It is the next experience that people are not thinking about. And even when I say it, people are like, Slovenia, why? Trust me on this, okay? Most of our team
Okay.
has been there by now and they are loving it. For Central America, Panama is huge. So, a lot of people go to Costa Rica. I love Costa Rica. I recommend it wholeheartedly still. And there are certain areas that are less discovered. But to get an entire country that is less discovered and to be able to explore Panama is a really, really great place that you could be thinking about. So just travel trend wise, I think it's for us, it's always looking at one step ahead of the typical traveler and what's being written about in the magazines these days.
Yeah, and this is just from my own anecdotal observation that I found that before the pandemic, people would go to the normal European places or go to Hawaii or whatever. But I noticed that after the pandemic, people are really going for experience. Like they're going to
Mm.
Africa, they're going on
Yes.
safaris, they're going to Antarctica, they're going to
Mhm.
Alaska, they're going to places or India that are not as, like from an American perspective.
Yeah.
Those typically aren't the first places you think about where people
Yeah.
are really investing in that. Am I right about that?
You are, and some of it, so many reasons go into that, right? So the psychology of bucket list trips exploded after the pandemic because people saw, oh my goodness, what if I don't get to go to the place I want to go? What if borders could
Yeah,
be closed tomorrow? Would I have regrets? And so bucket list trips became huge. Two, the price of travel is at an all-time high. Now we're seeing that plateau, and I'm thankful for that because I think it'll make it more accessible, but it's been at an
sure.
all-time high. And so as travel advisors, when people come to us with a price point or when we see a certain destination that is just beyond inflated and we're like, I hate to even recommend this place because, 3 years ago, it would have been a totally different scenario. And we hope to see it even out. If you're going to spend that kind of money, why don't you finally take that bucket list safari? That's going to cost you the same amount of money because it has not inflated quite as much as other areas. So we're oftentimes looking at pivot destinations for that reason. And it can be a really good time to do that. But you're so correct in noticing that is more the trend these days.
That's amazing. What is your favorite drink on a flight?
So I'm not a big drinker these days. I stopped drinking after my second child. So probably water.
It doesn't have to be
I'm all about
alcoholic.
hydrating. Just give me water, get me well hydrated, get me there.
Yeah, I think there is isn't there some data around tomato juice tastes better in the air? That is like my drink. I don't really drink alcohol, but on the airplane, I only drink tomato juice, only on airplanes, never on land.
Going on a flight tomorrow and I'm going to order a tomato juice and let you know what I think. I've never heard that, but who knows? I bet it was like oxidize it differently. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
I don't know. There's actual data on it. What is the most underrated country?
The most underrated country. That's a good question. I would have said Portugal until this year when Portugal's just become like at the top of everyone's list.
It's blown up. All the Americans are coming over.
You mentioned safari a minute ago, and my all-time favorite place, and so maybe it's still underrated, people know about it, but South Africa is just a gem of a place. And I think a lot of times travelers are not willing to go that far. People might have their bubble of how far. It's so worth it. It is so worth it. Yes, it's a long plane ride. It's a long journey, but it is beyond worth it. So maybe that's underrated in that way.
What is the weirdest food you've eaten and where?
Okay, in Thailand, we did a street tour in Bangkok. By the way, I travel for the purpose of eating. Like this is the whole reason I think it's worth seeing the world. We did a street tour in Bangkok, and some of the things I don't even know what I tried, but I tried a little nibble of scorpion. My husband ate the whole thing.
Oh, did he like it? Did you guys like it?
I don't like things that still look like what they were.
Yeah.
It still very much looks like that. He'll eat anything. It's amazing. He has a cast iron stomach.
Oh my goodness. What is your go-to airport outfit? What is like the must have?
I got this pair of leather joggers from a brand called Paige. And I wear them every time I'm in the airport because they look both dressy but comfy. Like imagine leather sweatpants. It's so weird. They're my favorites. I also, big advocate for a shoe company called Kizik Shoes, Kizik.
Okay.
If you haven't seen these, they're like the slip-on tennis shoes. And so I got them when I was like absurdly pregnant and couldn't see my own feet anymore. But now I find them so helpful for travel. If you ever have to take your shoes off or just in and out, like it's just so easy just to slip them on and off, but they're still tennis shoes. So they're not like sliding off like slides.
So this is so brand new, but I am deeply obsessed with sneaks. The Sarah Blakely new
Have
shoes.
You got
so they're like half sneakers, half stilettos. And so there are all of these people and, maybe it's just their marketing. I went through the entire airport in my sneaks and got to my destination, still walking around, so comfortable. So I am wondering if those are airport tested, those are airport worthy.
Well, if Sarah Blakely needs anyone to airport test them, I volunteer as tribute. I deeply adore anything she puts out into the world.
I do too. I love the lightning round. Tell me what happens next for you. Any plans or are you just going to chill?
So, this is the hardest thing in the world for me to do, but I am leaning into the pause. This is my phrase for the next couple of months. I'm leaning into the pause. I am such a base my worth on productivity and I'm trying to break that and really, really thinking through, like, I know what I'm doing next is creative. I've been working on a book for forever. I have an agent. I'm working with him on getting that into the world and pitching it to publishers, but I'm not pressuring myself to do that on a certain timeline. I really, especially right now, as we're recording this, we're about to be entering into the holidays. I thought I might not ever have this kind of time over the holidays with my family where I can just say, all right, I don't have the responsibility of work on me. And I can pursue that at any point. But right now, I want to be a present mother. So I'm really leaning into the pause.
Do you know what I love about you, Lindsey? You not only are embodying what this looks like through your own work, like truly just work and kind of taking it apart, putting it together, but I love that your business and your podcast are really beacons to invite other people to kind of do that own exploration and give them permission to just live life more fully. And I acknowledge you and appreciate you for that. What do you know that you wish other people could know?
First, thanks for saying that. And I love that you use the word beacon, because there was a point in my life actually during that really dark time running the business where my mission was to be a beacon. And so I think that's still very much infused in a lot of the work that I have. What I know that I wish other people would know, and I think this is because this is just coming out in my head as I've made this announcement, and I've finally gotten the weight off of making this announcement, and my ego would have told me, you could never make that announcement. You could never step out of the CEO role. That's not possible. You founded this company. You're pivotal for this company. And I actually, this is so funny. As we speak, our press release got picked up by an industry trade. And so I just recently saw the headline. And when I had written this press release to like have my marketing manager look at, I think that I had written it in a way where it was like, Lindsey Epperly steps into chairwoman role. Like it was all about me still, right? And when this press release was ran, it was ran as Jet Set appoints new CEO. And I just took this beat of, oh my God, it's not about me. It's never been about me. This role has been replaceable. And so what I wish other people would know is we really hang our hats on our irreplaceability in roles. And I think it's more about the irreplaceability that we are as people. And so if we're pursuing our purpose, if we are playing the roles that cannot be replaced, right? As mom, as wife, your CEO role even can be replaced. Your ex role that you're afraid to leave can be replaced. You cannot be replaced. And so if you're not leaning fully into your purpose, then something is off. There's something still like work left to be done. And that's kind of what I've been learning, especially this past week.
That is so beautiful. What a perfect place to close. How can people find you, work with you, get in touch with you, listen to your work?
Thank you for asking. So the best place to connect with me right now is I have a Substack that I'm keeping going that's kind of showing a lot of the behind the scenes of this transition, a lot of the behind the scenes of building Who Made You the Boss. So that's the best place to follow along with us right now. It's just lindseyepperly.substack.com. That'll notify you when we have new episodes, all the fun stuff. That's a really great place to connect. Thanks for asking.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lindsey. So glad to have you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Allison.
Oh, I just love Lindsey Epperly. Just being around her feels like a warm cup of hot chocolate with like the best marshmallows. If you want to connect more deeply with Lindsey through her Substack and her podcast, Who Made You the Boss, I'll put it in the show notes, but you can go subscribe to her Substack at lindseyepperly.substack.com. I personally love getting her missives. They are always so insightful and always like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's totally right. And if this sparks something for you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode. Your reinvention might just inspire someone else's. If you like today's episode, there are several ways to support the show. I produce this show myself, so it helps me continue to make it. First, please rate and review the show on the platform where you listen, and consider sharing this episode with a friend or five. That's how it grows, by sharing these ideas. Second, please sign up for my email where I send out a short personal note to you every week, and always with a sprinkle of snark and some best finds. You can sign up at allisonhair.com/email. As always, thanks for listening and hanging out with me in the Reinvention Room.